The All-Star break is over. The Chicago Cubs are back at Wrigley Field against the Boston Red Sox this weekend, and we will get you ready for one of the biggest second halves in years for this franchise as the Cubs look to get back to the playoffs. All of that and more on tonight's episode of the CHGO Cubs-related podcast. This is the CHGO Cubs-related podcast driven by Toyota. Let's go places and bet 365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary. Use code CHGO365 at sign up. Good evening, everybody. Happy Thursday. My name is Corey. I am joined once again by Dr. Brendan Miller. Appreciate Kevin Wells for joining us last week.
Kevin.
We are coming to you on Thursday. It is July 17th, and Brendan, we have no time to waste. There is plenty to talk about as we get ready for what I might say, Pat Hughes, to quote my, the Hall of Famer, one of my favorite people in the world. This feels like a turning point, Brendan, not just for the 2025 season, but for the Chicago Cubs organization. This is one of the biggest, 3-4 month stretches in a long time for this.
Long time. I have never felt this intrigued and excited about the directions that they can go down and improve this team. There's so many areas and so many potential ways they can elevate themselves from that, first division tier team that they are right now to like legitimately the best team in baseball, which is crazy to think about because for years you and I have talked about getting back to this point.
Yeah.
And it kind of snuck up on us, and we have a legitimate World Series contender ahead of a legitimate improvable trade deadline. Beyond excited.
Yeah. And, so look, I think I know Kevin Wells and I did it last Thursday. I know Luke has done a bit of it with Patrick and Kevin. Like, we have kind of recapped the first half. Some of that, of course, will come up in the conversation tonight. But I think the goal for this episode is to serve as a primer. The second half starts tomorrow. It's going to be a crazy weekend at beautiful historic Wrigley Field, Brendan. I don't know if this is on your radar, but as the Red Sox have gotten hot and played themselves back into AL East contention and playoff contention, this is the most expensive I have seen resale tickets probably since 2019, like Rizzo Bryant era Cubs. I mean, massive prices like for the game. I can't go tomorrow. And there's a Saturday night game and a Sunday game. It is going to be a very exciting weekend, but that starts us off on a pivotal stretch for this team. They come out of the break now 1 game up on the Milwaukee Brewers, as annoying as that has been and will probably continue to be, and a couple weeks to the trade deadline. We will continue to talk about the needs, some likelihoods, prospects you may be okay parting with, et cetera, et cetera. But that's what I want this episode to be, Brendan, setting us up for a really big second half as the Cubs look to win the National League Central Division for the first time since 2020, for the first time in a legitimate non-asterisk, non-Mickey Mouse season, if you will.
Spring training World Series.
Yes, since 2017, and look to get back to the playoffs using those same terms, either since 2020 or since losing in the wild card game in 2018. As you said, Brendan, like, it hasn't felt like this in a while. It's very exciting, and I am ready to go, man. In a broad perspective, like, they are better than Milwaukee. They are positioned to improve themselves at the deadline. And I think they're ready to go. I think Craig Counsell is ready to put his stamp on his time with the Chicago Cubs. Obviously, only a couple years here. And Kyle Tucker and PCA are going to take us there, man.
This lineup too, I'm trying to pinch myself just how good this lineup has been. I'm trying to find parallels to previous years, and I'm almost cautious in saying this, but it might be the best producing lineup we've seen the Cubs have in a one half sample. For instance, Michael Busch is the league one of the league leaders in across every category. For the Cubs, he has a 160 WRC plus. He is legitimately leading the Cubs in run production. Michael Busch, Kyle Tucker's number 2, Seiya Suzuki's number 3, Pete Crow-Armstrong's number 4. We're not even talking about PCA as the top 3 producer on this team. And then it doesn't just stop there. You have Carson Kelly, who's ripping it. And then beyond those guys, those top 5 guys, Dansby, Nico, Ian Happ, all above league average. So top to bottom, every single lineup spot besides third base is not just producing, but producing above league average. And for half the lineup, producing better than like 80% of an everyday player in this league. It is absurd. We've not seen this type of production in our lifetimes, Corey. And that's why I'm cautiously trying to communicate this with 2016 and the feeling we had there.
Yeah. Hey, if only we had that rotation and we'd really be in business. And just, we'll talk about a lot of these guys. But Michael Busch, you mentioned, not only is he, pacing the Cubs in terms of overall offensive output, 5th in baseball, Brendan, in weighted runs created plus.
It's wild.
I mean, you guys tell me if this sounds good for Michael Busch. Sandwich between Shohei Ohtani and Pete Alonso. Is this good company to share for Michael?
I think so. I think it's pretty good.
And also, congratulations, obviously, to Nico Hoerner and his now fiance. That's wonderful news. Good way to spend the All-Star break.
I bet.
Crazy. Hopefully, not the only ring in Nico's life this year.
Yeah.
Just get another one, a bigger one, more jewels, but that's okay.
Maybe more expensive.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, man. And look, like you have the added sort of drama in this going forward here. Like Jed doesn't have a contract. Kyle Tucker doesn't have a contract. It's a lot of stuff that's like up in the air here. And how much of it is affected by what happens in the next few months, like we'll see. But that's why I use the Pat Hughes phrase. Like really, it does feel like a turning point for this organization.
I think the best way to describe it is this is the most dramatic deadline I think you and I have covered. Even in 2016, there was drama. You got Chapman and everything, but you knew that team's destiny, so to speak, for at least the next 4 or 5 years was cemented.
Yeah.
This one is like, okay, you're contending for a World Series, but at the same time, you don't know if your MVP candidate will be back next year. You don't know even if your front office will be back, although it seems likely they'll be back, but you just don't know.
Yeah. And it's also been a weird, and maybe this is just the social media void. I would imagine that there are folks who don't, sit on Twitter or don't read some of this stuff that maybe don't get this sense. It has been very strange. Like when you look at some of the performances that the Cubs have gotten from some of these guys, just exceptional stuff from, as we've talked about, Kyle Tucker, PCA, Carson Kelly, Michael Busch, Seiya Suzuki, just to name like some of the real like outstanding offensive contributors. Matthew Boyd has been one of the best starters in the league. Daniel Palencia elevating himself to this closer status that we kind of were dreaming about. Some of the discussion in our YouTube comments, sometimes as much as we love our wonderful listeners, you'd think this team was terrible, man. Like, and you read some of the discussion and you're like, this team has the second best record in the National League. Just a half game, I believe, behind the Los Angeles Dodgers. Same number of losses. The Dodgers have one more win. And remind you who won that season series, by the way.
That's correct.
It is not the Dodgers. And the Cubs have the second best record or third best record in baseball behind only the Dodgers and the Tigers. But, you read some of the like game to game discussion, you'd think this team was 5 games out of first place. So drama coming up. And especially as we head to the deadline too, it's always interesting to see how they approach this. Do they go for rental players that improve certain things for this year? Do they target cost controlled players that can help them beyond just 2025. I see our guy Gary Ross in the chat pointing out, like, I think sometimes folks get a little worried, like, what's the price for this rental guy, et cetera, et cetera. Extremely rare. Often, like, never do top prospects get traded for rentals, even though sometimes when you see those mock trades put out, it's always Owen Casey, right? Doesn't matter who the Cubs are acquiring. Everybody's just like, well, we want Owen Casey. That's who you have to give it. That almost never happens for rental players like that. It's extremely rare. It does happen, but it's extremely rare. So just curious to see how they go about this and what they decide to do to supplement this team.
Yeah, I feel as if we're going to be surprised in a good way and surprised by the moves that bolster the depth. And I think we'll talk about it later on. But we're reading off the leaderboards for everyday players. They've been remarkably healthy on the positional side.
Yeah.
Like those guys that I listed off, they're playing every day.
I'm knocking on wood, everybody. Don't
I
worry.
know.
Yeah.
PCA, Dansby Swanson, Nico, every single day. So the fact that their bench has not been producing has been glossed over, as it should, just because you have every single day run producers. If you're a Jet in the front office, you're thinking worst case scenario. Like, how do you make sure that this team, this World Series contending team, does not break because of unfortunate circumstances? And the way to do that is bolster your depth. Maybe get a guy in the trade market that doesn't quite make sense on the surface, but in the same vein as Colin Ray, where if you need at-bats, then you can slot him in somehow. I think we're going to see some of that, just given how the positional side and the guys the Cubs have acquired in recent years, Nick Castellanos, the cheap price that's costed. So I could see them very well making not just like one splash, but really improving on the depth side of cost affordable deals as well.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, I'm fascinated to see how they go about this. I always sort of think back to a way that Theo Epstein used to talk about this, and, like, thinking about building a team and getting into October, and just thinking of, as you described, like, what are the potential hurdles that get in the way? What would come up that would prevent this team from winning in October? Obviously, you have to get there. You have to get down the stretch. You have to stave off the Brewers, or if you can't, stay in the wild card hunt. But if you get to October, how do you win those games? How do you get 27 outs in those games? How do you hit good pitching on the other team? Do you have the lineup you need to deploy against tough left-handed flame-throwing relievers? Same goes for the right side, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the calculus that Jed is going to have to figure out. Now, of course, the trick, as we've sort of seen, is that, especially with the added wild card situation, teams are going to be reluctant to make moves early. And a lot of these teams are going to hang around, and they're going to look at, the Diamondbacks from a couple of years ago and say, hey, if we just hang around, maybe we sneak in the playoffs, maybe we can make some noise, and maybe we don't have to sell to our fans that we've traded some of our best players and we keep filling our ballpark, whether it works out or not. So that's a calculus as we look at some of these teams who we've been paying attention to. A few weeks ago when we got on here, Brendan, I think there was discussion, like, what were the Red Sox going to do? Like, Bregman had gotten hurt, a little bit of like this or that, then they go on a heater, and now they're certainly looking to buy and might be competition for the Cubs in some of these conversations. So things change like that on a dime for some of these teams that have to make these key decisions. So it may be a waiting game. Trust me, I am also monitoring the Diamondbacks package that everybody is talking about. Getting Eugenio Suarez.
You get Suarez in this
Kelly.
lineup?
Yeah.
Man, that would be phenomenal. Just the presence of adding a bat in the middle of the order, let's say at third base, in the form of Suarez would be incredible. But we still have multiple weeks left, about 10 days left for a lot of teams to figure out whether or not they want to go forth with that trade deadline, like with the Cubs in 2023.
Yeah. So I think, all right, we're going to hit our first ad break here. I think that's a good sort of setup of the stakes of what is coming. Obviously, the Cubs lead the division. The Brewers are chasing They've been one of the best teams in baseball. I know I was looking like the Cespedes Barbecue Boys put the Cubs at #1 in their podcast.
Look out.
Whatever anybody thinks of any of these rankings, like the Cubs are in these discussions of one of the best teams in baseball, and they've proven it on the field the entire first half. So the stakes are big. The deadline's going to be important. And we're going to get into some of the more player specific stuff. I think when we come out of the break here, we're going to talk about our good friend and all-star Pete Crow-Armstrong. But let's hit our first ad break here, and then we'll be back to talk more about the first place Chicago Cubs.
Sunnyside. What is Sunnyside? Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary is your go-to spot for judgment-free cannabis shopping. Whether you're new or a pro, they've got you covered with over 100 strains, top brands like Good News, Mindy's, Cresco, and Florical, and an expert staff to guide you. Sunnyside is your one-stop shop. Order online, pick up in-store. You can visit them in Wrigleyville, River North, Champaign, South Beloit, and more. If you're a first-time shopper, get 50% off your first 3 online purchases with promo code HICHGO at sunnyside.shop. Exclusions do apply. Already a fan? You can use code CHGO50 for 50% off one Cresco Labs brand item. Sunnyside, bright buys every day, 21 or over, or for Illinois medical cards holders. Summer's travels here, and that means packing and overpacking. But now you can pack smarter with Mando. The Mando 4-in-1 acidified cleansing bar is your shampoo, face wash, body wash, and deodorant all in one. It simplifies your routine and saves major space in your bag. And let's talk about confidence. Mando's sweat control deodorant stick and whole body deodorant have totally changed the game. I use it every day, everywhere. Yep, everywhere. Pits, cracks, privates, feet, all fair game. What makes Mando unique? It's doctor created, clinically proven, and made to handle odor where it actually happens. There's fresh scents like bourbon leather, cloverwoods, or Mount Fuji that smell amazing. And after 12 hours, the average man's grundle odor goes from a 5 to a 0 with Mando. Not kidding. Mando starter pack is perfect for new customers. Get a solid stick, cream tube, 2 free products, free shipping, and as a special offer, get 20% off site-wide with code CHGO at shopmando.com. That's shopmando.com, promo code CHGO. Smell fresher, stay drier, and support the show with Mando.
All right, we're back. And Brendan, I would like to do a segment, if you wouldn't mind, on Pete Crow-Armstrong. Pete Crow-Armstrong coming off his first All-Star appearance, ripping a double in the All-Star game. He sits as the 3rd highest player in baseball in accumulated wins above replacement so far, just turning into an absolute superstar. He has 25 homers and 71 RBIs. He was going viral for a wonderful quote about philosophy and being yourself and advice to kids. I don't know what else you could want from Pete, but talk to me about what we saw in the first half and some changes, not changes, but little differences we saw in his game to start the month of July and how he is setting himself up to finish off what has started as a dream season for not only him, but obviously Cubs fans across the world enjoying his rise to superstardom.
Superstardom, indeed. When he started the year, our friend Lance Brzezowski noticed, like, hey, he's swinging the bat faster. He's swinging the bat at a 74 mile per hour rate. That is almost 3 miles per hour faster than what he showed last year. And of course, that didn't coincide with the results in April. All of a sudden, end of April, results started to go up, but the chase also was really high. Javi Baez-esque chase, right? And so you have 2 really extreme features from PCA. One is the chase, but 2, it's the speed, power, and the elevated bat speed that we've seen. The question is, well, how sustainable is someone like Pete who has that type of chase rate where you're chasing 45% of pitches outside the zone? And 2, is there any blips where this bat speed actually is not like real and it's just a sample of a small season? And that's not the case either. In fact, it's the opposite. If we look at this graph on the left, you're noticing that, yes, Pete's chase rate from the start of the season up until about the end of June was around 45 to 50%. This is calculating his chase every 10 opportunities that he's given. But you're noticing a little blip. You see that blip right there, Corey, on the left?
I
At
do.
the start of July, that chase rate is gradually going down. That means he's more selective. Well, then the question is, well, if he's chasing less, then is he more hesitant to swing? Is he trying to make more contact? Well, no. Look on the right. The right is his exit, or rather his bat speed. And you're seeing that across the season, it was around 71, 72 miles per hour. It did start off higher, which is why you see those wider red peaks and valleys right there. But you're also noticing start of July, bat speed's going up. So you're looking at a 23-year-old who is swinging the bat with intent and conviction, but also swinging the bat at more selective pitches that generates damage. Like, this is another instance where maybe you're seeing Pete develop and take that next stride and go from what we see now as 75th percentile run producer to even like that next tier, right? So the trend I'm looking for as the second half starts are those two traits. Can he withstand the adjustments that he will have to face by not chasing as much and continuing that adjustment while also now swinging with this higher intent, which might generate that 40 home run potential that he's currently on pace for? And if you're going to ask me, okay, what are you betting on? Like, do you think this is actually going to happen? Typically, you don't see those two traits correlate, where you're having better bat speed and less chase. That to me signals an adjustment and more comfort, and it gets me very, very excited.
I'm also excited, Brendan.
As you should.
It's been an amazing thing to watch, and I think that's something that you almost forget, is that obviously you're seeing a potentially him reaching a high ceiling, but he's so young. There's still room for him to develop and adjust and grow even more and
Corey,
be even better, which feels impossible.
He's chasing, just to hammer this down, he's chasing at like a slightly below league average rate now over the past 3 weeks. Absurd if he can maintain that. If he maintains that, it's a matter of basic like batted balls in play. Yeah. That batting average, he said it too, goes from 265 upwards to above 275. That's a huge difference.
But Brendan, then how will he hit home runs at balls that are near his eyeballs?
Okay, well, you know what? You're going to have to sacrifice a little bit of content for that. Okay,
fine.
Sorry.
Fine.
All right.
I'll choose the higher batting average over him golfing
I'll choose
a ball
the 300 batting average
for a home run if I have to settle. And I am prepared, by the way, to be, I think we all need to be prepared to like riot or something like that if he keeps this pace and they give the MVP to like Ohtani because he's the golden boy.
No.
We're not going to stand
he's
for that.
He's on pace for 9 wins.
We're not going to stand for that.
Yeah. 40-40 guy with like elite defense. Come on.
But yes, PCA has been amazing. I also do want to give a shout out. I see him in the chat here. Our good friend of the show, Greg Huss. If you're interested in MLB draft in-depth coverage from some really fine folks who dig into this stuff, check out the Cubs on Deck podcast. Greg, Brian, also Greg, do great work on that show. Check that out if you are interested in more deep dives on the MLB draft and who the Cubs drafted recently. So yeah, PCA has been amazing. His all-star experience was amazing. I talked about it with Luke the other night, but just seeing him at that showcase, and not only him doubling, but the way he carries himself, and looking at all the little things where you start to see like, oh, okay, MLB is like recognizing this guy. He's like slowly becoming a face of the league. I said to Luke, like when you logged onto the MLB's Twitter, there were 6 guys in their header image. One of them was Pete Crow-Armstrong. Right. I'm like, this is unbelievable. I cannot believe our life right now that this is happening.
Can't believe your life.
Yeah. It's amazing, Brendan. But transitioning to, I think, just overall like approach looking at this team and tying it into the deadline is how I think we should spend sort of the rest of this show. It'll combine, I think, discussing where they've been and how they've gotten to this point and what they need to keep it going. We keep talking, everybody's sort of expressing what are your number one shopping goals at the trade deadline. If you are Jed Hoyer, if you have the ability to root for Jed Hoyer to pull stuff off, I think the predominant ones are going to be a starting pitcher, an answer at third base, whether that is someone who is starting or who is joining the ever-evolving platoon over there, and then potentially bullpen help, maybe depth on the bench, etc. I still am looking at this as a playoff caliber starting pitcher is my number one goal for this team. I think when you look at the landscape, it doesn't necessarily appear like that ace or someone who is vaulting to the top of this rotation. Although, I mean, right now it'd be hard to find somebody better than Matthew Boyd.
Well, I was about to say that.
Yeah.
Isn't he that guy?
Yeah, he certainly has been. But when I look at this, I think, as you talked about, it's thinking about what could get in the way or how do you best prepare for any worst case scenarios. And I think the starting rotation is that spot, right? You have Matthew Boyd, who is coming off a shortened year with injury, who has been unbelievable for you, a deserved all-star, and someone who right now I think we would have to be in the running for the National League Cy Young Award. But what does that look like as you go forward? How do you keep him fresh? How do you make sure that you're able to give him the ball in October? Cade Horton, a rookie, still developing, still growing, still adjusting, obviously blowing past some innings limits and making these starts every fifth day at the major league level for the first time in his career. How do you keep him fresh? How many bullets does he have left, et cetera, et cetera? You've gotten great work from someone like Colin Ray. Do you want him taking the ball every fifth day? And even if he's not in the rotation going forward, he's going to make the start to open the break on Friday against the Red Sox, by the way. What role do you want him in? How do you keep him fresh to continue contributing to this team at a high level like you have? And even Shota, coming back from injury, looked great in his last start. I think as he continues to go out there, continues to look more like himself, and feeling good coming back from the injury, but still guy in his second year in the majors, coming off an injury. There's just some questions, right? If you could lock it in and the playoffs started tomorrow, like you'd feel great about giving those guys, at least the top two for sure, the ball in the playoffs. But what does everything look like 4 months from now? And who would you give the ball to, say, in game 3? These are the questions that I think Jed is thinking about. And that is why, for most of us, I believe, at least someone who you would look at and feel comfortable, say, in game 3, giving them the ball in a playoff series at minimum. I think that's where you're looking, especially with Jameson Taillon was inconsistent, obviously dealing with an injury now, and you have no idea how he's going to come back and go. So that's still at the top of my list. Though I will say, as I discussed with Luke after the All-Star game the other night, rather telling Brendan that the Cubs played in New York. I understand the pitching matchups, but one Matt Shaw did not start at third base.
That's right.
I think that's a pretty clear tip of the hand if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, let's hit our second ad break here. We'll come back around. We'll talk about this in greater detail, but there's a lot of directions they can go and how you get those pieces. It may need to involve creativity, though. Let's hit our second ad break and we'll continue talking. Just like your favorite team needs a home field advantage, your home needs a home floor advantage. That's where Empire Today comes in. Big box stores, you've been there, wandering aisles, overwhelmed, trying to match colors under fluorescent lights, and then you're stuck hauling everything home and figuring it out and the installation on your own. Let's be honest. Yesterday, that store associate was in plumbing. Tomorrow, they're stocking bulbs. Flooring is not their specialty, but Empire Today lives and breathes flooring. It's what they do every single day. Their experts bring the showroom to you so you can see how everything actually looks with your furniture, lighting, and vibe. Way better than guessing in store. You'll get precise measurements, clear answers to your questions, and upfront all-inclusive pricing. Plus, you can even schedule installation as soon as tomorrow. So schedule your free in-home estimate now, because some things are just better at home. CHGO listeners get $350 off when you use CHGO at empiretoday.com/CHGO. That's a $350 discount with code CHGO. Restrictions do apply. Hey, Cubs fans, if you're thinking about upgrading your drive this season, Toyota's 2025 lineup is definitely worth a look. There's the RAV4. It's versatile, reliable, always ready for a little adventure. There's the Grand Highlander, plenty of room, super comfortable, great for families or long road trips. If you're looking for efficiency, the Corolla's got you covered. It's smart, stylish, and easy on gas. Visit your local dealer and find yours today. You can check them out and the full lineup by Toyota.com or stop by your local Chicagoland Toyota dealership. Toyota, let's go places, and become a CHGO diehard and upgrade your fandom today. Get access to our exclusive written content, a free t-shirt, plenty of discounts on future merch and events, plus access to our CHGO Discord lounge, where we all hang out and talk Chicago sports and so much more. Go to allchgo.com for the latest information and how you can join the thousands of CHGO diehards in our community. We cannot wait to connect with you on an ever greater level.
All right, back with you. And just looking through our live YouTube comments, yes, our good friend Gary, I do know that they said that Shaw was, working on his swing, and that's why they kept him out of that series. But what I meant was, it's not exactly a strong, indication that they're going to ride with him. You probably don't want your third baseman not playing against one of the best teams in the league, although the Yankees have kind of faltered lately, 2 weeks before the deadline. I wouldn't exactly take that as we've got our third baseman, kind of situation. Yeah. But we'll see on what they're thinking. I also, Brendan, I'm getting the feeling that if the Cubs do not swing a Merrill Kelly, Eugenio Suarez package, there's going to be a lot of folks that are disappointed. That feels like that
one of them.
Me too, but it just feels like there's a lot of people that are like, that is what they need to do. That is it. I am not considering anything else.
Yeah, man, I've been thinking about Suarez the entire week. I get it, right? It's just a matter of letting the market work its way out. But I'm thinking, okay, well, you have lefty problems. Let's get Eugenio Suarez with a weighted on base average over 360 against lefties. I'm thinking you have Kyle Tucker, you have Seiya Suzuki, you have maybe PCA batting cleanup. Yeah. Then you insert Suarez. It's such a menacing lineup.
Yeah. Well, and just you think about how deep that would be. Of course, adding someone like Suarez solves the catastrophic problem we seem to have of Dansby Swanson hitting too high in the lineup, right?
Well, you had that go-ahead home run, and
I was sort of joking, but yeah, I had a it would push everybody down, which is always nice. And you think about, especially as you get into October, you would be a very, very diverse group. And I've seen people talking about it online too. Hopefully I would, if they acquire an everyday third baseman, I wouldn't be surprised if Matt Shaw went back down to continue playing every day, working on his swing, etc. But given his athleticism and how great he's been defensively at third base, that would not be the last we saw of Matt Shaw if that's how things played out.
No, he'd be on the playoff roster.
He would be an excellent utility type of option for Craig Counsell to deploy in certain situations. Yeah. But you think about, and again, whether it's Suarez or, the options may be limited, but I think you need another bat at some point somewhere. You just think about how difficult that lineup would be to pitch to. We've talked about the different skill sets that this lineup already possesses. You have some power guys, you have really good on base guys, you have someone like Nico, who's an elite contact guy. Dansby, who, even though, his overall offensive numbers aren't at the level some people seem to expect, despite him never doing that in his career and it being an unfair expectation, he's still popping a bunch of home runs. And you throw someone like Suarez in there, it's like, man, this would be a real, a nightmare of a lineup to pitch to. And obviously Carson Kelly has been at the highest of highs, Barry Bonds level high and pretty low for a while, but now seems to have found his groove again, kind of found himself again. And hopefully Miguel Amaya, I know they were targeting after the All-Star break for a rehab assignment or to like really get him going back on the track to come back. Man, if you can bring him back and get him to where he was before he got hurt, no disrespect to Reese McGuire, who has also been really good when they threw him in. You'd be setting yourself up to be a very diverse and challenging lineup to pitch to, especially when you add that layer, Brendan, of how well this team has run on the bases. When you have guys like Kyle Tucker sneaking in those steals, you always like to point this out where he steals second and doesn't get the throw from the catcher and then scores 2 seconds later on a base hit. This team has been very, very good on the bases. You add another like powerful hitter to this lineup and kind of get away from the obviously really poor production you've had on the offensive side from anyone you've put at third base. Like, man, 1 through 9, this would be a nightmare for people to have to pitch to.
Right. And that's maybe one way you can go into the playoffs with a lot of pitching options. Because if you can continue to score runs like you're talking about, we're talking about right now, this team already has the best run differential in baseball with one of the best offenses in baseball. So you're talking not just adding a league average producer at third base. Suarez would be one of the better third baseman producers offensively in the league. So that allows then the trickle effects. So you're blowing teams out more. Okay, well, maybe, we can rest Keller a second day. Maybe we don't have to pitch Palencia on back-to-back days. That way, all of a sudden, you turn the calendar, it's September, and your bullpen is healthy. You're entering a playoff stretch, hopefully with a bye, and you got a well-established Daniel Palencia still pumping 102, 103. You have Brad Keller still looking every bit of himself that he was April, May, and June. And then you have that depth. And maybe Javi Assad comes back healthy. Boyd still looks good. You can stretch Boyd out, maybe go once every 6th day if you're concerned about that. Not implying they're going to do that. But you're able to have more flexibility with your pitching if you have more blowout days. That might be the way to get creative because, frankly, the ace that we want, it's not on the market. You're not going to get that ace. So you will have to be creative. And I believe the way to be creative is to some respect, emulate what the Dodgers did last year at the deadline. You get a Jack Flaherty type. You get a Tommy Edman type. On the surface, maybe not like earth-shattering moves, but they put yourself in that projection where if things go right, then they become the tipping point. And I believe the Cubs will proceed in a similar light like that.
Well, and I do think, overall, as you said, to kind of re-highlight this point, it's about they're in a position where, at the very least, you've set yourself up in a great spot in the first half.
My gosh,
you cannot control what the Milwaukee Brewers do. I do like the mindset. I saw someone say it earlier in the chat. I know a lot of people were like, oh man, the Brewers, they went like 28-12 over the last like several weeks. I mean, they went 6-0 to finish that last week. And you can't control that. But I kind of liked the perspective of they went on an absolute heater, a total heater, and it was not good enough.
Right.
It wasn't good enough to catch these Cubs. You got 8 head-to-head with him. I believe 5 of them are at Wrigley Field with like a doubleheader or whatever that situation is. Like, it's not, you can't expect these things to be easy. Like, it's been the Brewers division, or at least like they've been one of the representatives for several years now since it's not been the Cubs, and they don't have anything to show for it. They haven't won a pennant. They certainly haven't won a World Series. They've never won a World Series in their history. And yes, you heard that right. The Milwaukee Brewers have never won a World Series. Don't let them forget that. But like, they're not going to lay down and let you get back atop the division, especially after you stole their manager. Like, it's going to be a dogfight. You're going to have to play well against them head to head, and you just have to put your head down and take care of business. You've been one of the best teams in the league. If that roster in Milwaukee, now they can supplement things at the deadline as well. Like, I agree
they
with
could get Suarez themselves.
They could. They're in those rumors. Yeah. I agree with our friend Evil Wax in the chat. Like, I do think they're playing over their head. I don't want to jinx it, but you look at that roster, the Cubs are better than them. That doesn't always mean they play better. We've seen that plenty of times. If that worked, the 2004 Cubs would have made the playoffs, right? But you are a really good team. Take care of your own business. You can't control what anybody else does. That's all they can do. So what Jed is going to be looking at is, how do I set Craig Counsell up for success, not only in this second half, but if we get to the playoffs. And I like your point about how the Dodgers went about things. Sometimes the moves don't look flashy, but you have to be thinking months ahead to, sort of, as I was saying before, who's the guy on the bench? If this team brings out a left-handed reliever with a devastating breaking ball, who am I calling off the bench? If we are in a spot where it's bases loaded and Shohei Ohtani is coming up, or Aaron Judge in the World Series, who am I calling to get that strikeout? And sometimes you have those guys on your team and you hope that it's Daniel Palencia, for example, but in general, those are all the questions. Every little scenario: who's our pinch runner in this spot? Who's our pinch hitter in this spot? Who's starting against a tough lefty if we want to give this guy a day off? As we saw in 2016 with Joe Madden, where are our defensive specialists playing? Do we want to go a heavy defense lineup? Do we need to sell out for slug today because it's blowing out at Wrigley and the runs may be at a premium? All these different scenarios. And that's what you want to set yourself up for. And right now, the Cubs have a lot of really good things going on, but it's easy to see where you can improve in some of those areas. I really like the point you brought up, especially in the bullpen. Maybe there's big time names available that you could add to this bullpen, and then it is like straight gas coming out of the bullpen to go along with Daniel Palencia. But it also may be something exactly like you said, where it's like, even if we can just get good guys to add, that takes a little bit of the burden off of Brad Keller, keeps him fresher. We kind of saw him struggling a bit more, not pitching as effectively as he did at the beginning of the year. Same with Daniel Palencia. Like, those are two guys who are in these roles, these high leverage roles in the MLB bullpen. They haven't really done that before. They played different roles throughout their career. You got to keep these guys fresh. And so sometimes, even if it's not a move like Chapman in 2016, for example, where you go, okay, that puts them over the top, they're winning the World Series unless everything just goes wrong for them. Maybe it's not those guys, but it's guys who, as we talked about, they push guys down in the lineup, or they lessen the burden. They give Brad Keller a day off because we have another high leverage reliever now. Those can also be really impactful moves, even if when they're made, they don't jump off the screen as oh yeah, print the World Series tickets, that kind of vibe.
And Milwaukee's right there. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not looking at Milwaukee as a binary, this is who the Cubs need to beat per se. I'm looking at Philadelphia. I'm looking at the entire National League. Yeah. One way that you can go through the playoffs and have the pitching you want is to not play that first round. So the way I'm thinking about this, okay, well, yeah, we want to get into October with pitchers, right? But I want to already win a series in September. Yeah. So go out and get those depth spots, get those guys that can replace the replacement level production from Justin Turner and Matt Shaw and John Birdie and Vidal Brujan, right? Those guys they don't have the opportunities to produce that poorly, which is thankful. But if they have to play, that is how you leave your pitching susceptible, because every game you have to figure out a way to get 9 innings in the NLDS, right? So if you already have to expend 27 innings, maybe 4 of which from Daniel Palencia previously in his highest leverage moment in that first series, well, that's going to significantly lower your chances, in my opinion, of getting through the NLDS, then the NLCS, and then hopefully the World Series. So I'm looking at this like, how do I get a bye? How do I win the first round in September? And I will be looking at Milwaukee, yes, but I'm looking at everyone. I'm looking at the Dodgers. I look at the Dodgers record. I scoreboard watch the Dodgers the same way I'm scoreboard watching Milwaukee. They're there, but I want that bye so badly. And
if they win important.
It is significantly important. You want that pitching in September and October. That's how you get that and have your best odds.
Yeah, 100%. And that goes to sort of just the opportunity that's here. We'll hit our third ad break here and then we'll finish things off in the last segment. But that just speaks to the opportunity. Again, you find yourself as one of the best teams in the league. The opportunity is there if you play good baseball in this second half to do some damage. And there's no guarantees for Jed Hoyer. There's no guarantees on where Kyle Tucker plays next year. And you look at the performances that you're getting from some of these guys. Like, you certainly hope that Michael Busch has found himself and continues to play for years to come as one of the best first basemen in the league. But are you going to get a top 5 WRC plus season from him every year? Are you going to get, hopefully, are you going to get a PCA season where he's 8 or 9 wins above replacement every year? Yes, but it's not guaranteed as we sit here right
Maybe
now.
Even 10.
And as you said, like, the health, again, knock on wood, has been really good for this team. A lot is happening at the right time. And that does remind me of the 2016 team that ends up winning the World Series, where you look back at that and you look at some of those guys' careers, and like, the peak of their career happened at a really convenient time when timed with other guys on that team and organization, that it happened at the same time. Because you look at their performance the year before or a couple years later, didn't time out that way. So sometimes timing is everything. So the Cubs have a really great chance. And yeah, you want the buy and you want to set yourself up at this deadline to really take advantage of that chance, because you just never know when things are going to be this good again. Like, and look, a lot of baseball to play. They have a lot to do and a lot to prove. Job's not finished, right? But at the same time, like, you just don't get first halves like this all the time. You don't set yourself up in a position like this all the time. You've got to cash in on it. Let's take our last ad break here, and we'll come back for the last 15 and finish things off.
New vehicles are in store at Ray Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, and this is your chance to score a great deal at the Employee Pricing Plus Sales event. Right now, lease a new 2025 Ram 1500 Bighorn Crew Cab for only $399 a month for 27 months, plus shop over 125 vehicles, priced under $20,000. The expert team at Ray CDJR is here to help you during each step of the car shopping journey. They prioritize affordability. You know you will not overpay for the vehicle you need. And with Ray's Price Promise, you can shop confidently with no add-ons or hidden fees ever. The price you see is the price you pay. It is that simple. Go check out our partner to shop one of the Chicago area's largest inventories. Don't miss out on the Employee Pricing Plus Sales event for huge savings on the Ram 1500. For more information, visit Ray CDJR in Route 12 in Fox Lake, or online at raycdjr.com. A couple weeks ago, my friends, last minute, hit up a Cubs game. No planning, just vibes. They opened up the Game Time app, and boom, amazing seats, cheap prices, and they were in before the first pitch. The money they saved, straight to beers, hot dogs, and hats for the whole crew. Game Time is honestly the fastest and easiest way to get last-minute tickets. Prices drop closer to first pitch, to not just first pitch, but any other game. Football season's coming up, and you can actually see your view before you buy, and we all love that. Check out upcoming games like July 20th versus Boston, or August 3rd versus the Orioles, with 10% off zone deals for those Cubs home games. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of CHGO. I use it all the time. My friends use it all the time. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets, download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code CHGO. Game Time, last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
All right, Brendan, back to finish off this one. Just looking at, because his name keeps coming up so much, like, talking about some of the specific names that are available. I think the reason you're hearing so much on Merrill Kelly and Eugenio Suarez is, I think, the idea that obviously you'd be getting 2 players, but you wouldn't expect that prospect cost to be what a lot of people might expect, or like mortgaging the future, so to speak, just given the contract statuses of those guys. And like, you look at someone like Merrill Kelly, like, he's not gonna like blow people away by name recognition or anything, but like, you look at his last few years, man, since like 2022, 3.37 ERA, 3.29, 4.03, 3.34 this year, and each year pretty consistent. Like, he's not a big FIP discrepancy guy, so you don't look at him as like getting results that he doesn't deserve or anything. It's a really solid pitcher, man. And that's what the Cubs need, a solid guy who can go out there every 5th day, elevate the rotation, allow you to move some guys out of the rotation, monitor their workload if you need. And I think, like, again, like, it would have been nice if Sandy Alcantara looked like a Cy Young contender and the Cubs maybe felt like they wanted to pay a big price to get him with his contract and everything. But I talked about this with Luke, man. Like, to me, there's a few of these names out there. Galen was another one. I need somebody who's performing right now. Like, if Tommy Hotovy could come on this show and tell me, hey, we're making this trade. I see he has a 5.5, a 6.5 ERA. I got it. Like, trust me. I know what to do. This is the move. Yes, I would be like, yes, sir, Tommy. Like, whatever you say, I believe in you wholeheartedly. But for where this team is at and some of the question marks we alluded to with the rotation, even as it stands, you got to get someone that's like, nothing is a sure thing, Brendan, but I just don't have the time for projects, or if we can tweak this or this. If they're not performing, to me, I'm just not interested. I understand the potential, and the potential may be higher in some of those names than some of the guys that you may end up targeting. But to me, especially when you consider what the prospect cost might be, I can't do it. I need someone who is where they need to be right now.
Merrill Kelly would cost about $3 million against a luxury tax. So he basically fits what you want. A cost affordable pitcher with a recent track record of success that is currently having results as of 2 weeks ago, right? If there's pushback, and the devil's advocate approach would be, well, he's coming off last year in which he only threw 73 innings. Well, he's 36 years old. He is an older guy. And you know what, man, I kind of want a pitcher who doesn't rely on throwing a changeup as his most used pitch type, followed by a cutter. So those would be the pushbacks. And then it opens up the questions of, well, who else is available? Because we do have, 2-3 slots to give. Is there someone more projectable than a 36-year-old pitcher who relies on a changeup? I like Kelly a lot. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, I still would like some certainty, right? And there could be other pitchers who have that certainty, who rely more so on a conventional repertoire, who isn't about to be 37 years old. We'll see what happens. But the price tag of $3 million makes it possible that you can get someone like Kelly and still add maybe 2 other guys that you're talking about as more depth. I'm into it. I'm into a lot of other different pitchers right now, but like you, what I know for sure is I don't want projects. Like, I don't want, like, I know everyone's talking about Zach Gallen, and maybe he's coming back to earth. I don't want to squint. I don't want to hope. I want someone to slot in every day, and I know for sure he's going to get outs.
Yeah, I'm with you. There's going to be a lot of different things thrown out there. I am curious, when you look at this system and some of the top prospects and the way some of these guys have performed, like, say the right thing is
you trade
available.
Everyone.
That's what I'm asking. Yeah.
You trade everyone. So you can look at, first off, just to preface, this is a World Series contending team. Rarely do you get World Series contending teams of this caliber. We had one in the past 10 years. You can maybe say, oh, well, 2018 before Milwaukee. No, this is a bona fide World Series contender. So I can make an argument against each and every single one of those Cubs prospects on why they will not even give you one WAR as recent as next year and the year after. Doesn't mean I'm not excited about them, but I can easily say, well, Owen Casey's whiffing at an unacceptable rate in AAA, right? If I'm going to be super harsh, right? He has a 71% contact against AAA pitchers. The major league average is 77%. So that's the pushback against Owen Casey. So if he gets called up, what does that look like against major league pitching? And are they willing to allow him to go through the growing pains? Because we just saw what happened to Matt Shaw. By the way, Shaw had a 74% contact rate last year. What about Moises Ballesteros? Well, the contact's great, but he can't catch right now. He only has 8 home runs in his sample. So can we count on him being an everyday player next year? No. After that, who do we got? Kevin Alcantara? Kevin Alcantara has been great recently, has some growing pains in AAA this year, right? I'm not bagging on these prospects. I'm still very optimistic about their future, but you have to play both sides. And so if there's a trade involving Owen Casey, yeah, I I want to win a World Series right now. If that's going to make my odds significantly higher to get that first round bye, absolutely yes. Same thing with every other prospect. Now, the reality is, fortunately, we're not trading every single prospect. So this extreme scenario is not going to happen. If there's one or two, then yeah, absolutely. You do it and you don't even blink.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm with you. I mean, obviously, you don't mortgage the farm for the sake of mortgaging the farm.
And I don't hate Casey, by the way. I know Gary said this. I don't hate Casey. I think you have to try to project realistic value. And realistically, guys who whiff that much at AAA tend to not produce value. So he will have to make a significant adjustment. Now, what's not like quantifiable is the capacity to make that adjustment, right? PCA made that adjustment. Matt Shaw has yet to make that adjustment. But if I want to slot in 2026, yes, this is my right fielder or this is my 300 plate appearance guy. At the current time, you cannot do that with Casey. I believe he can get there, but you have to be realistic.
Yeah, and for the record, like on the Merrill and Kelly thing and like Suarez, we're not talking about Owen Casey, or shouldn't be.
No, they shouldn't cost Casey, but hey, you never know. The league does change.
But no, like no way. Yeah, well, and look, if like where's Owen Casey going to play? Kyle Tucker is going to be the right fielder. So yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I'm not for, you don't just sell the farm for the sake of it. Obviously, it's very important. You've had a lot of, guys come up and be able to contribute, but it's all about winning. I know people have different philosophies on that, and some people are focused on the system. Some people are focused on sustained success. And of course, all of that matters. I want the Cubs to be good every year. I want them to have a shot at winning a championship every year, but it's not that easy. And great opportunities don't come all the time. And you gotta go for it. The title is what matters. That's what it's all about, winning the World Series, at least to me. And I think that's what it should be all about. It's nice to think, but even going back to like the last Cubs core, like it's nice to think that you can find a way to set yourself up for sustained success, but it just doesn't always work out that way. Things change, guys get hurt, their career paths take really strange things. Guys don't develop the way that you think they do. They stagnate, all sorts of stuff.
Well, especially in today's world too, in today's baseball market, it's so unpredictable more now than ever.
Yeah. So like you've got a really good shot. We haven't seen this good of a Cubs team in a very long time. And I don't think we've seen them have an opportunity like this. You go back to the last couple deadlines, like, sure, they were like flirting, buying, selling, all that stuff. And they had opportunities to make the playoffs. But I think nobody really looked at them and said, this is a legitimate World Series contender. It was just a quest to make the playoffs and like try to screw around like the Diamondbacks did.
And it was fun.
Which isn't a futile one. But yeah, like it's about winning titles. And this team has a really great opportunity that includes some things that aren't particularly certain about the future or guaranteed about the future. And when you find yourself coming out of the break as a top 3 team in baseball, like you got to go for it. So whatever that means at this deadline, whoever ends up being available and whatever ways you can improve this team, I think you got to do it. And it might be Jed's job on the line. We don't really know. We don't know how Tom's thinking of this, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm all for it. I have not looked back, even watching him hit homers in that series against the Astros. I do not care about Cam Smith. Kyle Tucker has been excellent as advertised, and that trade was worth it 10 times over for me. It was a clear plan, and it's working exactly the way it was supposed to. Kyle Tucker is one of the best hitters in the league, and you're one of the best teams in the league. Great. I don't care about Cam Smith. Same thing. Like I never once batted an eye about Gleyber Torres. Don't care. They won a World Series. You could not pay me to care about that. Don't care. If they trade Casey, this person, that person, they go on to be I don't care. You try to win championships. That's what I'm here for, and that's what I want Jed to do.
And you, at the same time, you draft well, you develop well. You make it so when you do trade these guys, the next wave of prospects is available. The Conrads, their recent draft pick, you develop the hell out of that guy, right? The second round, third round, fourth round, etc. That's how you build sustainable success. Layering on big time trades to win World Series that boost your entire organization to bolster the next wave as well.
All right. That is all that we have for you tonight. I think the Cubs and Red Sox begin the second half, 1:20 Friday, beautiful historic Wrigley Field. To finish off the month, the Red Sox, the Royals, the White Sox, and then a big series in Milwaukee with the Brewers. Let's see what Jed has for us. How does he supplement and use the deadline in his favor to help the Cubs, who sit as one of the best teams in the league, win the NL Central for the first time in 5 years? We appreciate you joining us. We will talk to you again next Thursday. And as always, go Cubs.
We all silly like the mayor.